I was 21 years old when my parents finally looked at me like I mattered. Too bad it took my perfect sister dying to make it happen. My name is Jennifer, and I've been the broken Cooper daughter for as long as I can remember. While Kimberly was breaking swimming records and collecting academic awards, I was breaking out in rashes, collapsing from exhaustion, and spending more time in hospital waiting rooms than most kids spend in playgrounds. "It's just stress," Mum would say, barely glancing up from Kimberly's latest trophy. Jennifer's always been dramatic. Dad would nod along, already calculating the cost of another doctor's visit versus Kimberly's private coaching fees. Guess which one won every time. But 3 weeks ago, everything changed. I was in my dorm room, actually managing to keep down solid food for the first time in days, when my phone buzzed. Mum's contact photo, her and Kimberly at some charity gala, both glowing, filled the screen. "Jennifer, you need to come home immediately." No hello. No asking how I felt, just orders. "What's wrong?" "It's Kimberly. She's very sick." The drive home felt surreal. For once I wasn't the sick one. For once someone else was stealing the medical spotlight. I found them in the living room, Mum clutching tissues, Dad pacing like a caged animal, and Kimberly curled up on the couch looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Her golden hair was dull, her skin pale and waxy. "Acute myeloid leukemia," Dad said without preamble. "Aggressive. The doctors say she needs a bone marrow transplant." Mum looked at me with eyes I'd never seen before, desperate, pleading. "You're her only sibling. You're her best chance." I stared at them. 21 years of being invisible, and suddenly I was the most important person in the room. "We've already scheduled your compatibility testing," Dad continued. "Dr. Martinez can see you tomorrow." Not, "Would you consider it?" or "We'd be grateful if you'd help." Just assumptions and orders, like always. "What if I'm not a match?" I asked. "You have to be," Mum whispered. "You just have to be." Kimberly finally looked at me then, her eyes glassy with fever and medication. "Please, Jen, I know things have been—" She trailed off, unable or unwilling to acknowledge the years of dismissal, the countless times she'd rolled her eyes when I mentioned feeling sick, the way she'd sighed dramatically whenever my health issues interrupted her plans. "I'll get tested," I said quietly. The relief in the room was palpable. Mum actually hugged me, a real hug, not the perfunctory shoulder pats I usually got. "Thank you, sweetheart. This is your chance to really help the family, to be useful. To be useful. Not loved, not valued. Useful." Dad cleared his throat. "The testing will take a few days, but Dr. Martinez is optimistic. You and Kimberly share enough genetic markers that the odds are good." "And if I am a match, then you'll donate," he said simply. "It's a relatively minor procedure for you, but it could save your sister's life." Relatively minor? I almost laughed. Everything about my health had always been relatively minor to them. "The hospital wants to do a full medical workup on you first," Mum added, "just to make sure you're healthy enough to donate." Healthy enough. That was rich, coming from people who'd spent 2 decades telling me my symptoms were all in my head. "I'll need my medical records," I said, "for the compatibility testing." Something flickered across Dad's face, too quick to identify. "We'll handle that. Don't worry about the paperwork." Actually, I'd like to get them myself. I should probably understand my own medical history better. "Jennifer," Mum's voice carried that familiar edge of impatience. "Let us handle the details. You just focus on getting ready for the testing." But I was already thinking about those records, wondering what exactly they contained. In 21 years of chronic illness, I'd never actually seen my complete medical file. "Of course," I said, smiling for the first time since I'd walked through the door. "Whatever you think is best." They had no idea what they'd just set in motion. After years of being the forgotten daughter, I was finally going to matter. I just wasn't planning to matter in the way they expected. The next morning, I called Dr. Martinez's office myself. "Hi, I need to request copies of my medical records for Jennifer Cooper, date of birth March 15th, 2002. "Of course, honey. We'll need you to come in and fill out the release forms. Should have them ready in about a week. A week. I didn't have a week before my parents started asking questions. That's when I remembered Mum's home office. She kept everything. Every receipt, every document, every piece of paper that might be remotely important. If my medical records existed anywhere outside the doctor's office, they'd be there. I waited until both parents left for Kimberly's appointment at the oncology centre. The house felt different when it was just me. Quieter, less suffocating. Mum's office was exactly as I remembered, meticulously organised, everything in its place. I started with the filing cabinet, insurance documents, tax returns, Kimberly's school records dating back to kindergarten. A whole drawer dedicated to her swimming achievements. My section was considerably smaller. A thin folder labelled Jennifer P. Medical contained mostly vaccination records and a few emergency room visits. But something felt off. The dates didn't match my memories. I remembered being sick constantly between ages 8 and 12, but the records only showed 3 doctor visits during that entire period. I was about to give up when I noticed something odd about Mum's closet. The back wall didn't quite line up with the room's dimensions. I pushed aside her hanging clothes and found a small panel that shifted when I pressed it. Behind it was a metal lockbox. My hands were shaking as I pulled it out. It was heavier than expected, and when I shook it, papers rustled inside. I called Reese. "I need you to come over, now." "What's wrong? You sound weird." "I found something. I think my parents have been hiding my medical records." 20 minutes later, Reese was sitting on my bedroom floor with a bobby pin and a paperclip working on the lock. "You know this is probably illegal, right?" she said, not stopping her work. "So is medical neglect." The lock clicked open. Inside were dozens of documents. Letters from doctors, test results, treatment recommendations. My name was on every single one. Reese whistled low. "Jen, look at this date. You were 9. I took the letter she handed me. Dr. Patricia Hendricks, paediatric rheumatologist. The letterhead was from Children's Hospital. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Cooper," I read aloud. "Following Jennifer's evaluation, I'm confident in my diagnosis of juvenile idiopathic arthritis. While this condition can be serious if left untreated, early intervention with methotrexate and physical therapy typically results in excellent outcomes. I strongly recommend we begin treatment immediately to prevent joint damage and reduce Jennifer's pain levels." My voice cracked on the last sentence. "This is dated September 12th, 2011. "What did they do?" Reese asked quietly. I flipped through more documents. Another letter, dated 2 months later. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, I'm concerned that Jennifer has not returned for her follow-up appointment. Juvenile arthritis requires consistent monitoring and treatment. Please contact my office to reschedule immediately." Then another, dated January 2012. "This will be my final attempt to reach you regarding Jennifer's care. Without proper treatment, her condition will likely worsen, potentially causing permanent joint damage and chronic pain. I am required to note in her file that recommended treatment was refused by parents." I couldn't breathe. Reese grabbed my shoulders. "Jen, breathe in and out." "They knew," I whispered. "They knew what was wrong with me, and they let me suffer." There were more letters, different doctors, different years. A gastroenterologist recommending treatment for my chronic stomach issues, a neurologist suggesting medication for my migraines, an endocrinologist concerned about my fatigue and recommending hormone therapy. Every single recommendation had been ignored. At the bottom of the box was a handwritten note in Mum's careful script. "Kay's training schedule cannot accommodate Jay's appointments. Discuss with Quinn." And Dad's response in his messy handwriting: "Agreed. Jay's issues are manageable without intervention. Kay's Olympic potential is not." Reese was reading over my shoulder. Those absolute monsters. I found one more document that made my blood freeze. A letter from our family lawyer, Remington. "Per your request, I've reviewed the medical recommendations for Jennifer. While I cannot advise you to ignore medical care, I understand your concerns about the financial and time commitments involved. Should any legal issues arise from delayed treatment, I recommend documenting Jennifer's difficult behaviour and resistance to medical care. They planned this, I said. They actually planned to let me suffer so Kimberly could have her perfect life. My phone buzzed. A text from Mum. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Remember, your testing is tomorrow. We're so proud of you for helping your sister. I showed Reese the message. What are you going to do? She asked. I looked at the pile of documents, at years of proof that my parents had chosen Kimberly's dreams over my basic health and well-being. I'm going to save my sister's life, I said slowly. But first, I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of people my parents really are. Reese grinned. I was hoping you'd say that. I spent the next 3 days reading every document in that box. By the time I finished, I had a timeline of deliberate neglect spanning 13 years. The compatibility test results came back positive, of course. I was a perfect match for Kimberly. This is wonderful news! Dr. Martinez beamed at my parents during the consultation. Jennifer's bone marrow should give Kimberly an excellent chance at full recovery. Mum actually teared up. Thank you, Jennifer. You're saving your sister's life. Dad squeezed my shoulder, the first time he'd touched me in years. We're so proud of you, kiddo. Kiddo. I was 21 years old. There are some concerns about Jennifer's health history, Dr. Martinez continued, flipping through my file. Her chronic fatigue and joint pain could complicate the donation process. Oh, that's just stress, Mum waved dismissively. Jennifer's always been a bit dramatic about minor aches and pains. I watched Dr. Martinez's eyebrows raise slightly. These symptoms have been ongoing for over a decade. Has she been evaluated by a rheumatologist? We've taken her to plenty of doctors, Dad said smoothly. They all said the same thing. Growing pains, stress, nothing serious. The lies rolled off their tongues so easily. Well, we'll do a full workup before the procedure, Dr. Martinez said, just to be safe. After the appointment, my parents were practically giddy. We should celebrate, Mum said. Dinner at Romano's? Romano's was Kimberly's favourite restaurant. Of course. Over breadsticks and pasta, they laid out their vision for my newfound usefulness. The hospital suggested we might want to do some fundraising, Dad explained. Bone marrow donation awareness, that sort of thing. We're thinking a gala, Mum added, her eyes bright with excitement. Something elegant. We could invite everyone. The Hendersons, the Blackwells, your father's business partners. A gala, I repeated. To honour you, sweetheart, our brave daughter saving her sister's life. Mum reached across the table and patted my hand. We're calling it An Angel Among Us. I nearly choked on my water. You want to throw a party about me donating bone marrow? Not a party, Dad corrected. A celebration of family, sacrifice, love, the kind of story that inspires people. We'd want you to give a speech, Mum continued. Something heartfelt about sisterly love, about how this experience has brought our family closer together. The irony was suffocating. What does Kimberly think about this? They exchanged glances. She's focused on her treatment right now, Dad said carefully. That evening, I found Kimberly in her room, staring at her phone. She looked up when I knocked. Hey, I said, how are you feeling? Like garbage. The chemo makes everything taste like metal. I sat on the edge of her bed. I wanted to talk to you about the donation. What about it? Are you okay with Mum and Dad turning it into this big public thing? Kimberly shrugged. If it helps raise awareness, sure. Why? I just thought maybe we could talk first, about us, about our childhood. Her expression hardened. What about it? Come on, Kim. You know I was sick a lot when we were kids. You know Mum and Dad didn't really what? She sat up straighter. Didn't cater to your every complaint, didn't drop everything every time you had a headache. That's not what I meant. Look, Jen, I'm sorry you felt neglected or whatever, but I'm literally fighting for my life here. Can we maybe not make this about your childhood trauma right now? The dismissal in her voice was so familiar, so perfectly Kimberly. You're right, I said quietly. This isn't about me. Thank you. I stood to leave, then paused at the door. Kim, do you remember when I couldn't walk for 3 days when I was 12? My knees were so swollen I couldn't bend them? Vaguely. Mum said I was faking it to get out of your swim meet. Were you? The question hung in the air between us. After a moment, Kimberly looked back at her phone. The gala's in 2 weeks, she said. Mum wants you to start working on your speech. I found Reese at her apartment that night, surrounded by printouts of the medical documents. I've been researching, she said, without looking up. Juvenile arthritis, if caught early like yours was, has a 90% success rate with treatment. Your stomach issues? Completely manageable with the right medication. The migraines, the fatigue, all of it could have been treated. But instead I spent 13 years thinking I was broken. You weren't broken. You were neglected. She looked up at me. What are you going to do about the gala? I thought about Mum's excited planning, Dad's business partners, the speech they wanted me to give about family love and sacrifice. I'm going to give them exactly what they asked for, I said. A speech about family, about sacrifice, about the truth. Reese grinned. You're going to destroy them. They destroyed me first. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Darling, we've booked the Riverside Ballroom for the 15th. 200 guests confirmed. This is going to be such a beautiful celebration of our family's love. Start thinking about what you want to say. Love you. Love you. 3 words she'd never said to me before I became useful. I typed back. Can't wait to share our family's story. The pre-donation medical workup was scheduled for Monday morning. I arrived at the hospital to find Dr. Martinez looking concerned as he reviewed my test results. Jennifer, I need to discuss some findings with you, he said, gesturing to a chair. Your blood work shows some concerning markers. Your white cell count is elevated and your inflammatory markers are quite high. What does that mean? It suggests you have an active autoimmune condition, possibly rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. Have you been experiencing joint pain, fatigue, morning stiffness? I almost laughed. For about 13 years, yeah. His pen stopped moving. 13 years, and you haven't been treated? My parents said it was growing pains, then stress. Dr. Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Jennifer, I need to be honest with you. Donating bone marrow with an untreated autoimmune condition is risky. The immunosuppressive drugs we give donors can be dangerous for someone with your health profile. How dangerous? Potentially life-threatening. Your immune system is already compromised. The donation process could trigger a severe flare-up, organ damage, or worse. My phone rang. Mum's ringtone. Hi, sweetheart. How did the appointment go? I looked at Dr. Martinez, who was shaking his head slightly. There are some complications, I said. What kind of complications? Dr. Martinez thinks I might have an autoimmune disease. He's concerned about the donation. Silence, then. Put him on the phone. I handed over my cell. Dr. Martinez's side of the conversation was professional but firm. Yes, Mrs. Cooper, I understand the urgency. However, Jennifer's health must be the priority. The risks are significant. I would strongly recommend postponing until we can treat her condition. He handed the phone back to me. Jennifer, listen to me. Mum's voice was steel. Kimberly doesn't have time for delays. Every day we wait, her condition gets worse. But Mum, he said it could be dangerous. Doctors always exaggerate risks to cover themselves legally. You'll be fine. You're young and strong. Young and strong. The same daughter who'd been too sickly to participate in family activities for years. I need to think about this. There's nothing to think about. Your sister is dying. The line went dead. Dr. Martinez was watching me carefully. Jennifer, this is your decision, not your parents', not your sister's, yours. If I don't do it, she'll die. If you do it in your current condition, you might die. That evening, I was working on my laptop when someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find Fletcher, a family friend who was in his 2nd year of medical school. Hey Jen, your mum asked me to stop by. Let me guess, she wants you to convince me the donation is safe. Fletcher looked uncomfortable. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something else. Can I come in? I stepped aside. Fletcher had always been nice to me, unlike most of Kimberly's friends who barely acknowledged my existence. I've been thinking about what you said at dinner last week, he began, about being sick as a kid. What about it? My mum mentioned something once. She said your parents took you to see Dr. Hendricks when you were 9, but then never went back. My heart started racing. Your mum knew Dr. Hendricks? She worked at Children's Hospital back then. She remembered because Dr. Hendricks was really concerned about a patient whose parents stopped bringing her in. Fletcher pulled out his phone. I did some research. Dr. Hendricks retired 5 years ago, but I found her contact information. He showed me a phone number. Fletcher, what are you saying? I'm saying maybe you should hear what she remembers about your case. After he left, I stared at the number for an hour before finally dialing. Dr. Hendricks, this is Jennifer Cooper. You treated me when I was 9 years old. A pause. Jennifer, my goodness, I remember you. How are you, dear? Not great, actually. I'm calling because I just found out I have an autoimmune condition, and I'm wondering if it's related to what you diagnosed back then. Oh, honey. Her voice was sad. I diagnosed you with juvenile idiopathic arthritis. I wrote multiple letters to your parents recommending immediate treatment. They never told me. I was so worried about you. When you stopped coming to appointments, I called your parents several times. They said they were seeking a second opinion, but then I never heard from you again. What would have happened if I'd been treated? With early intervention, you'd likely be completely asymptomatic by now. The medications we have for JIA are incredibly effective when started early. I closed my eyes. And now? Now it's much more complicated. 13 years of untreated inflammation has likely caused permanent damage. But Jennifer, it's not too late to start treatment. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and started typing. My phone buzzed with a text from Mum. Darling, we need to finalise your speech for the gala. I've drafted some talking points about family loyalty and the blessing of being able to help others. Can you review them tonight? I opened the attachment. It was everything I expected, saccharine platitudes about love and sacrifice with not a single word about truth. I deleted it and kept writing my own version. 2 hours later, I had 15 pages of raw, unfiltered truth about the Cooper family. My phone rang again. This time, it was Dad. Jennifer, your mother is very upset. Dr. Martinez called and said you're having second thoughts about the donation. I'm having second thoughts about dying for it. Don't be dramatic. You're not going to die. How would you know? You've been ignoring my health problems for 13 years. Silence. We'll discuss this tomorrow, he said finally. As a family. Looking forward to it. I hung up and went back to my speech. By morning, I'd have everything ready. The truth was finally going to come out. The family meeting happened the next morning in the living room. Mum had clearly been crying, and Dad looked like he hadn't slept. Jennifer, sit down, Dad said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. I remained standing. I'm fine here. Dr. Martinez says you're refusing the donation, Mum said, her voice breaking. How can you do this to your sister? I'm not refusing. I'm asking for time to get my own condition treated first. There is no time. Dad slammed his hand on the coffee table. Kimberly's counts are dropping every day. Every delay reduces her chances of survival. And the donation could kill me. You're being ridiculous, Mum snapped. One doctor's overcautious opinion doesn't... It's not one doctor. I pulled out my phone and played the recording I'd made of my conversation with Dr. Hendricks. This is the paediatric rheumatologist you took me to when I was 9. Their faces went white as Dr. Hendricks's voice filled the room, explaining my original diagnosis and the treatment they'd refused. Where did you get this? Dad's voice was dangerous. I called her myself. Funny thing about doctors, they keep records. Mum was shaking. You had no right to contact her without our permission. I had every right to know about my own medical history. Jennifer, Dad stood up, towering over me. You will donate bone marrow to your sister. This discussion is over. Actually, it's not. I pulled out copies of the documents from the lockbox. Because I found these. I spread them across the coffee table like playing cards. Letters from doctors, treatment recommendations, Mum's handwritten notes about prioritising Kimberly's training. Dad lunged for the papers, but I was faster. Copies, I said. I have dozens of copies. Mum collapsed into her chair. Jennifer, please, let me explain. Explain what? How you chose Kimberly's swimming career over my basic health care. It wasn't like that, she whispered. Then what was it like? I read from one of the letters. Without proper treatment, her condition will likely worsen, potentially causing permanent joint damage and chronic pain. That was written when I was 10, Mum. 10 years old. Dad was pacing now. We made the best decisions we could with the information we had. You had plenty of information, you chose to ignore it. Kimberly had potential, Mum said suddenly. Real potential, Olympic potential. We couldn't let... She stopped, realising what she'd just admitted. You couldn't let my health problems interfere with her training schedule, I finished. I know, I read your notes. The room fell silent except for the sound of Mum crying. The gala is in 5 days, Dad said finally. 200 people are coming. The hospital is counting on the fundraising. Then I guess you better hope I survive the donation. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Hi, Jennifer, this is Valentina, Kimberly's friend. Can we talk? I excused myself and called the number. Jennifer, thank you for calling back. I wanted to talk to you about Kim. What about her? I've been visiting her every day, and she keeps talking about how guilty she feels, about you donating, about your childhood, about how your parents treated you differently. This was unexpected. She said that. She's scared, Jennifer, not just about the cancer, but about what happens after. She knows your parents messed up, but she doesn't know how to fix it. It's a little late for that. Maybe, but I thought you should know she's not the same person she was in high school. The cancer changed her, made her think about things differently. After I hung up, I found Kimberly in her room, staring out the window. Valentina called me, I said. She didn't turn around. I figured she might. She says you feel guilty. Wouldn't you? I sat on her bed. Kim, did you know about the doctors, the treatment recommendations? Not when we were kids, but I suspected something was wrong. You were always so sick, and Mum and Dad just dismissed it. Why didn't you say anything? She finally looked at me. Because I was selfish. Because I liked being the favourite. Because it was easier to believe you were just dramatic than to admit our parents were capable of neglecting you. And now I'm dying, and the only person who can save me is the person our parents destroyed. Her voice cracked. How's that for karma? We sat in silence for a while. I'm still going to donate, I said finally. Even after everything? You're still my sister, but Kim, I need you to know that things are going to change after this. The truth is coming out. At the gala. At the gala. She nodded slowly. Good, it's time. That evening, Reese came over with her laptop and a portable speaker. I've set up a live stream, she said. Whatever you say at that gala, the whole world is going to hear it. Are you sure about this? Are you kidding? This is going to be legendary. Your parents have it coming. I looked at my speech, now 20 pages of carefully documented truth. There's no going back after this. There's no going back anyway, Reese said. They made sure of that 13 years ago. My phone rang. It was Remington, the family lawyer. Jennifer, your parents asked me to call. They're concerned about some documents that might be missing from your mother's office. Are they? I think we should meet tomorrow morning. There are some things we need to discuss about your family's privacy. I'll be there. After I hung up, Reese raised an eyebrow. The lawyer wants to see you. Looks like they're getting desperate. Good, let them sweat. I spent the rest of the evening practicing my speech, timing each section, memorizing the most important parts. In 3 days, I would stand in front of 200 people and destroy my family's reputation. But first, I had to survive the donation. The meeting with Remington was exactly what I expected. His office reeked of leather and intimidation, and he wasted no time getting to the point. "Jennifer, your parents are concerned about some private family documents that may have been misplaced." Misplaced? Documents that could be misinterpreted if taken out of context. He leaned forward. Medical records, personal correspondence, that sort of thing. "You mean the letters from doctors recommending treatment for my juvenile arthritis?" His poker face slipped for just a second. "I think there may be some confusion about the timeline of events." "No confusion. I have copies of everything." "Jennifer, I've known your family for 15 years. Your parents love you very much. Sometimes difficult decisions have to be made in the best interest of the family as a whole." Like choosing Kimberly's swimming career over my health? Like prioritizing resources where they can do the most good? He opened a folder. "I have here a document your parents would like you to sign. It's a simple confidentiality agreement regarding private family matters." I didn't even look at it. "No. The compensation is quite generous, $50,000. "You're trying to buy my silence?" "I'm trying to protect your family's privacy during a difficult time." I stood up. "My family stopped caring about protecting me a long time ago. Jennifer, think carefully about what you're doing. Public scandals have a way of hurting everyone involved, including you." "Is that a threat?" "It's advice from someone who's seen what happens when family disputes become public." I walked toward the door, then turned back. "Remington? When this all comes out, and it will, make sure my parents know that you had a chance to do the right thing." The bone marrow donation was scheduled for the morning of the gala. Dr. Martinez had reluctantly agreed to proceed after my parents signed extensive liability waivers. "I want it on record that I advised against this," he told me as they prepped me for the procedure. "Your inflammatory markers are still elevated." "I know. If you experience any unusual symptoms, fever, severe pain, difficulty breathing, you need to tell us immediately." The procedure itself was brutal. They inserted a large needle into my hip bone and extracted marrow while I was under general anesthesia. I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. "How do you feel?" the recovery nurse asked. "Like someone drilled holes in my bones." "That's normal. The pain should subside in a few days." A few days. The gala was in 6 hours. Mum and Dad were waiting when I was discharged. "How's our hero?" Dad asked, but his smile looked forced, tired, sore. "The car's outside," Mum said. "We need to get you home so you can rest before tonight." "About tonight?" "Everything's arranged," Dad interrupted. "The ballroom looks beautiful. Channel 7 is sending a camera crew." Perfect. More witnesses. At home, I found Reese waiting in my room with a garment bag. "Your parents picked out a dress," she said, unzipping the bag to reveal a pale blue gown. "Very virginal sacrifice." "How poetic." "How are you feeling? You look terrible." "Thanks. I feel worse than I look." "Are you sure you can do this tonight?" I sat heavily on my bed. The pain medication was wearing off, and my hip felt like it was on fire. "I have to. This is my only chance." "I've got everything set up for the live stream, backup cameras, multiple angles. Whatever happens tonight, we'll have it all recorded." My phone buzzed with a text from Fletcher. "Heard about the donation. You're incredibly brave. Break a leg tonight." Another text, this one from Valentina. "Kim wanted me to tell you she's proud of you. For everything." At 5 o'clock, Mum knocked on my door. "Jennifer, it's time to get ready." She helped me into the dress, her hands gentle as she zipped it up. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." "Mum, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you ever regret it? The way you handled my health when I was younger?" Her hands stilled on my shoulders. "I regret that you were in pain, but Jennifer, we did what we thought was best for the family." "Even knowing what it cost me?" "Every choice has a cost. We chose to invest in Kimberly's future because she had the best chance of success." "And what about my future?" She met my eyes in the mirror. "Tonight is about your future, about showing everyone the kind of person you really are." "You're right. I said. It is. The Riverside Ballroom was exactly as elegant as Mom had promised. 200 guests in formal wear, crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere. A banner reading "An Angel Among Us" hung above the stage. I spotted the Channel 7 camera crew setting up near the front. Reese gave me a thumbs up from her position by the back wall, laptop open, ready to broadcast. "Jennifer," a woman in a sparkly dress approached. "I'm Margaret Henderson. Your mother has told me so much about your sacrifice. It's nice to meet you." Such a beautiful story, family love conquering all. If only she knew. Dad took the stage first, welcoming everyone and explaining Kimberly's condition. Then Mum spoke about the importance of bone marrow donation and medical research. "And now," Dad said, "I'd like to introduce the real hero of our story, our daughter Jennifer, who gave the ultimate gift of love to her sister." The applause was thunderous as I walked to the podium. I could see my parents beaming in the front row, completely unaware of what was coming. I pulled out my speech and looked at the crowd. 200 expectant faces, cameras rolling, live stream broadcasting to who knows how many viewers. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began. "My parents asked me to speak about family, about love, about sacrifice." More applause. "And I'm going to do exactly that." I turned the page and found my real speech. "I want to tell you about what sacrifice really looks like in the Cooper family." The applause died. In the front row, I saw Dad's smile falter. "I want to tell you about a 9-year-old girl who couldn't walk for 3 days because her knees were so swollen and whose mother told her she was faking it to get attention." Complete silence now. "I want to tell you about parents who chose their younger daughter's swimming career over their older daughter's basic medical care." Mum started to stand, but Dad grabbed her arm. "I want to tell you about 13 years of deliberate medical neglect, documented in letters from doctors that my parents hid from me until 3 weeks ago." The crowd was murmuring now, confused, uncomfortable. I pulled out copies of the medical records and held them up. "These are letters from paediatric specialists recommending immediate treatment for my juvenile arthritis, treatment that would have prevented years of pain and permanent joint damage, treatment my parents refused because it would interfere with my sister's training schedule." Someone in the back shouted, "This is inappropriate!" "You're right," I said. "It is inappropriate. It's inappropriate to sacrifice one child's health for another's success. It's inappropriate to lie about medical neglect for 13 years. It's inappropriate to throw a gala celebrating sacrifice when you've never sacrificed anything for the child standing in front of you." I could see people pulling out their phones, recording, texting. The Channel 7 reporter was frantically signalling her cameraman. "Today, I donated bone marrow to save my sister's life, despite having an untreated autoimmune condition that makes the procedure potentially fatal for me. And do you know what my parents said when the doctor warned them about the risks?" I looked directly at Mum and Dad. They said I was being dramatic, just like they've said for 13 years. The room erupted into chaos. The chaos was immediate and overwhelming. People were shouting, phones were flashing, and I could hear chairs scraping as guests stood up in confusion. "Jennifer, stop this right now." Dad's voice boomed across the ballroom as he rushed toward the stage. I stepped back from the podium but kept talking. "I have copies of every document, every letter from doctors my parents ignored, every recommendation for treatment they refused." I pulled out a thick folder and started dropping pages into the crowd. People scrambled to pick them up. "This is from Dr. Patricia Hendricks, paediatric rheumatologist," I read from one letter. "I strongly recommend immediate treatment to prevent permanent joint damage. Dated September 2011. I was 9 years old." "Security!" Mum screamed. "Get her off that stage!" But the security guards looked confused, unsure whether to intervene in what was clearly a family dispute. Margaret Henderson, the woman who'd complimented our beautiful family story, was reading one of the documents with her mouth hanging open. "My God," she said loudly enough for others to hear. "This child was denied medical treatment for over a decade." "It's not what it looks like," Dad said, finally reaching the stage. He grabbed for the microphone, but I held it away from him. Then what is it, Dad? Explain to everyone how you chose Kimberly's Olympic dreams over my basic healthcare. The Channel 7 reporter was now filming everything, her cameraman capturing Dad's red face as he lunged for me. You ungrateful little... He caught himself before finishing the sentence, suddenly aware of all the cameras. Ungrateful? I laughed, and the sound echoed through the ballroom. I just donated bone marrow that could kill me to save the sister you've always loved more than me. How exactly am I ungrateful? Mom had made it to the stage now, tears streaming down her face. Jennifer, please, you're destroying our family. I'm not destroying anything, I'm just telling the truth. The truth? Mum's voice cracked. The truth is that we love you. We've always loved you. You love me now because I'm useful. Where was this love when I was 12 and couldn't get out of bed for a week because my joints hurt so badly? I turned back to the crowd, many of whom were still reading the documents I'd scattered. My mother's handwritten note, I announced, holding up another paper. Kay's training schedule cannot accommodate Jay's appointments. That's me, Jay, the inconvenient daughter whose medical needs interfered with the golden child's swimming practice. Someone in the crowd shouted, "This is child abuse!" "No!" Mum screamed. "We're good parents. We love both our daughters." "Then why?" I asked, my voice carrying clearly through the now silent ballroom. "Did you hide 13 years of medical records from me? Why did your lawyer try to pay me $50,000 to keep quiet about this?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. I spotted Remington near the back, his face pale as people turned to stare at him. "That's not," Dad started, but I cut him off. "I have recordings," I said simply, "of everything." The crowd erupted again. I could see people frantically typing on their phones, probably posting to social media. The Channel 7 reporter was speaking rapidly into her microphone. "Jennifer," a voice called from the crowd. It was Valentina pushing through the chaos toward the stage. "Jennifer, stop!" She climbed onto the stage, ignoring my parents' attempts to block her. "I know you're angry," she said, speaking directly to me but loud enough for the microphones to pick up. "And you have every right to be, but Kimberly is watching this." She held up her phone, showing a video call. Kimberly's pale face filled the screen, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Kim," I said. "Jen, I'm so sorry." Kimberly's voice was weak but clear. "I'm so sorry for everything, for not standing up for you, for letting them treat you like you didn't matter, for being selfish and horrible and... Kim, you don't have to..." "Yes, I do. Everyone needs to hear this." She looked directly into the camera. "My parents neglected my sister's health for years so I could pursue swimming. They chose my dreams over her pain, and I let them because it was easier than admitting what they were doing was wrong." The ballroom had gone completely silent. Even my parents had stopped trying to interrupt. "I don't deserve her bone marrow," Kimberly continued. "I don't deserve her sacrifice, but she gave it anyway because she's a better person than any of us." Mum collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Dad stood frozen, staring at the phone screen. "The worst part," Kimberly said, "is that I knew. Deep down, I always knew something was wrong, but I was too selfish to care." I looked out at the crowd of 200 people, all staring at me with expressions ranging from horror to sympathy to fascination. The Channel 7 camera was still rolling. Reese was still live streaming from the back of the room. "I want everyone to understand something," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos around me. "I didn't do this for revenge. I did this because the truth matters. Because children deserve parents who put their health and well-being first. Because favoritism and neglect have consequences." I gestured to my parents, who looked smaller somehow, diminished. "These people taught me that love is conditional, that I only mattered when I could be useful, that my pain was less important than my sister's potential." I picked up the microphone stand and moved it closer to the edge of the stage. But they also taught me something else. They taught me that I'm stronger than they ever gave me credit for, strong enough to survive 13 years of neglect, strong enough to save my sister's life despite everything they put me through, and strong enough to stand here tonight and tell you all exactly who they really are." I set the microphone down and walked off the stage. The last thing I heard before the ballroom doors closed behind me was the sound of 200 people talking at once and my mother's voice rising above it all. "Please, everyone, let me explain." But there was nothing left to explain. The truth was finally out. The video went viral within hours. Cooper Family Truth was trending on Twitter before I even made it home from the ballroom. Reese's live stream had been viewed over 1 million times, and the Channel 7 footage was being picked up by national news outlets. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. "Jennifer, this is Amanda Chen from Good Morning America." I hung up and blocked the number. Then I turned off my phone entirely. Reese found me on my apartment balcony at midnight, wrapped in a blanket and staring at the city lights. "How are you holding up?" "I feel empty," I said. I thought I'd feel vindicated or satisfied or something. Instead, I just feel hollow. "That's normal. You just blew up your entire family." "They blew up first, I just lit the fuse." She sat down beside me. "The hospital called. Kimberly's transplant is going well. Your bone marrow is taking." "Good. Your parents have been calling me. They want to talk to you." "I bet they do." "There's something else." Reese pulled out her phone. "Dr. Martinez wants to see you tomorrow. He says there are some people who want to help with your treatment." "What people?" "Apparently your story caught the attention of some specialists. They're offering to treat your arthritis pro bono." I looked at her. "Seriously?" "Dead serious. Dr. Sarah Kim at Johns Hopkins, Dr. Michael Rodriguez at Mayo Clinic. They're all reaching out." For the first time in days, I felt something other than emptiness. The next morning, I met Dr. Martinez at his office. With him was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and greying hair. "Jennifer, this is Dr. Kim from Johns Hopkins. She specialises in adult patients with untreated juvenile arthritis." "I've been following your story," Dr. Kim said gently. "What happened to you was unconscionable, but the good news is it's not too late." "Really?" "Really. The damage is significant, but with aggressive treatment, we can stop the progression and manage your pain. You could have a completely normal life." I started crying, not the angry tears I'd been shedding for weeks, but tears of relief. "There's no cost," Dr. Martinez added. "Several specialists have volunteered their services. They want to help." "Why?" "Because what happened to you matters," Dr. Kim said. "Because no child should suffer the way you did." That afternoon, Fletcher showed up at my apartment with coffee and pastries. "Thought you might be hungry. You look like you haven't eaten in days." "I haven't had much appetite." "Understandable." He sat down across from me. "I wanted you to know that what you did took incredible courage." "It didn't feel courageous. It felt necessary." "Sometimes that's the same thing." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. "Fletcher, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you think I'm a terrible person for destroying my family like that?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I think you're a person who was pushed to her breaking point. I think your parents created this situation, not you." "But the consequences?" "Are theirs to deal with. You told the truth. What they do with that is up to them." My doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Valentina standing in the hallway, looking nervous. "Hi," she said when I opened the door. "I hope it's okay that I came by." "How did you get my address?" "Reese gave it to me. I have something for you." She handed me an envelope with my name written on it in Kimberly's handwriting. She wanted me to give this to you in person. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper covered in Kim's messy scrawl. "Jen, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know that I'm proud of you. Not for saving my life, but for having the courage to tell the truth when none of the rest of us would. I'm going to spend whatever time I have left trying to be the sister you deserved all along. I love you, Kim." "She's been writing letters," Valentina said, "to doctors, to journalists, to anyone who will listen, confirming everything you said, adding details you didn't even know about." "Why?" Because she finally understands what our family put you through, and because she wants to make sure everyone knows you are telling the truth. That evening my phone rang. The caller ID showed my parents' home number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Jennifer. It was Dad, and he sounded older somehow, defeated. Can we talk? I don't know what there is to say. There's a lot to say, starting with an apology. Dad, please, just please let me say this. Your mother and I, we made terrible choices. We prioritized the wrong things. We failed you as parents, and there's no excuse for that. I was quiet. We're going to therapy, he continued, both of us, and we're setting up a foundation for children with chronic illnesses whose families can't afford treatment. That's good, I guess. It's not enough. Nothing we do will ever be enough, but we want to try to make things right. Dad, I need you to understand something. I'm not the same person I was before the gala. I can't go back to being the daughter who accepts scraps of attention and calls it love. I know, and we don't expect you to. Good, because I won't. Jennifer? Yeah? I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of the woman you've become, despite everything we put you through. After I hung up, I sat on my couch and looked around my apartment. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hi Jennifer, this is Dr. Kim. I wanted to let you know that your treatment plan is ready whenever you are. Also, there's something else. A young girl in Michigan saw your story. She's been having symptoms similar to yours, and her parents weren't taking them seriously. Until now. You saved more than just your sister's life. I smiled and typed back, When can we start treatment? The response came immediately. How about tomorrow? Tomorrow sounded perfect. I was finally ready to start living for myself.